I thought about Al Michaels with the quarantine, and Al loves to go to his famous restaurant Toscano, and Al joining us on the program. Can you do takeout at your restaurant?
Dan, they closed on January 1st for remodeling, and they were going to redo the kitchen and the floor and a few other things, and we're pointed toward a April 1st open. So here we are. The kitchen is still under construction. I believe takeout will be available soon. But in the meantime, what can I tell you? The Domino's truck knows where we live. And that's about the story. And then the great Linda Michaels, who cooked a lot when we were first married many moons ago, is back in the kitchen with Dinah. And here we are. So right now, my weight is very, very steady at this point. I'm very happy because I'm going out and walking about 8 miles a day. So I'm training for the Olympic race walking competition in 2021, and whenever we're going to have it. But you know what, Dan? I wake up this morning and I'm thinking to myself. Well, number one, I woke up a little early because I had to be on with you, obviously out here on the West Coast. So for you, I will do anything.
Thank you.
But I keep thinking that it's Groundhog Day. I wake up and I'm going, damn, it's the same day. And for how many days in a row now? Mm-hmm. And it's gotten to the point, Dan, where I don't know whether it's April or July or November or 2023. It's all the same. It runs together. And that's
what are you watching?
What am I watching? I'll tell you what. So obviously, like everybody else in the country, I went to Tiger King, and I loved it. It was unreal. Then I watched McMillions on HBO, I guess it is, or I don't know where it is. One of them, HBO or Netflix.
Yeah.
And watched that. And, after Tiger King, it was hard to sit through all of it because nothing's as good as Tiger King at this particular point. But it was fine, lasted till the end, and that was worth it. Watched a couple of Larry David episodes. Oh, and then I'll tell you what I did. I hadn't seen it since it came out in 94, 95. I watched Pulp Fiction. And, you forget, if you haven't seen a movie in 25 years, how many incredible scenes there are. The script, the dialogue, the acting. So I watched that. But I'll tell you what I do every morning. I wake up, and just for a little pick-me-up and to make me feel a little bit better, and I mentioned this to Mike Tirico on his show the other day, so this is not breaking news. But I wake up and I go to YouTube, and if I'm not looking for you, what I will do is I will search Don Rickles. And there must be 100 to 150 Don Rickles skits with Carson, Letterman, Leno, Kimmel, with Donnie and Marie. Believe it or not, he's on the Donnie and Marie show. And I watched that for about a half hour. And as the doctors will tell you, and I don't know whether it's Doc Rivers or Dr. Zhivago or Dr. J, but the doctors will tell you that laughter dilates your vessels, your blood vessels, and your arteries. So what's better than that, Dan? So my suggestions to all of the Danettes and all of the Danette audience is to type in Don Rickles when we get off the phone here and enjoy yourself for half an hour.
Any sports that you're watching?
There's nothing to watch, but so the irony is I go to the NFL Network the other day, and I can't watch myself because I've done those games, and I just can't sit there and watch it again, and I'm too critical of myself. But I'm doing the Super Bowl with Chris. I think it was Philly, New England. I think that was the game. And then there's one with John Madden, Pittsburgh, Arizona. And then I go over to the NHL Network, and they're playing the movie Miracle. and then I go to the MLB Network, and I'm doing Game 7 of the '88 playoffs, Dodgers. And
these are good problems to have, Al.
But Dan, here's the thing, and you know it as well as I. So one of my great friends is Tom Werner, who owns the Red Sox, and he and Marcy Carsey formed the Carsey Werner production company, and they did the Cosby Show and the Roseanne Show, and Tom's a great guy. So we're walking through the neighborhood the other day, and Marcy Carsey lives a couple of blocks away. So we decide that we're going to call her to see if she wants to come out and walk with us. So she'd already walked, but she comes to the front gate, and we're standing several feet apart. And she says, "What are you up to?" I said, "Well, I don't know. I'm up to nothing, but I'm on television more than anybody in history." And I said, "I don't see one residual or one royalty."
Wow.
And Marcy, of course, I said, "Marcy, I'm standing by the mailbox." I said, "Can I open this up and see how many residuals you got today?" So anyway, Dan, that's where I am. How you doing?
I'm doing well. I feel fortunate that we get to do this. Fritzy's at home, McLevin's at home, Seaton's at home, but Paulie and I are here, and a very scaled down crew. But I talked to Hank Aaron this week, Jack Nicklaus this week, Jim Nantz this week, you this week. I mean, we're trying to do whatever normal is. We're trying to do it. So I feel lucky. I do. I feel very lucky here.
Yeah, I mean, we're doing things. I mean, think about this. The other day, FaceTime is great, so I'm totally into that now. You used to call people audio only, and now it's just at FaceTime. I didn't realize how simple it was. And believe it or not, you ready who was on FaceTime? Our man, Bob Costas.
Whoa! Wait, he's got a flip phone.
No, he does, but, Bob Costas, who very recently had a rotary dial phone, and then he was on a party line, and then he went to a flip phone, and and then apparently I think Jill Costas got him, I think, an iPhone.
Wow!
I figured, what would the chances I would call Costas and get him on FaceTime, and there he was, with unshaven and the whole thing, and looking like a bum, like all of us are looking right now. But Bob has come into the 21st century with us.
Wow, that's incredible. We're talking to Al Michaels, NBC Sunday Night Football play-by-play boys. How close did you come to getting traded to ESPN? I'm curious about that, Al.
The only thing I knew is that Andrew Marchand had great sources and kept writing about it. And when Andrew called me, I said, "Hey, listen, I'm reading you to find out what's happening with me." So it never came to me. Apparently, there was some discussion as to whether or not I could be released from my contract, and that was the end of it. But everything I knew came from Andrew. Trust me.
But you've already been traded once, so we can't go, boy, Al can't get traded.
Well, as part of that deal back in 05, 06, we threw in, and believe me, it was a throw in. The deal was already done, but at the end of the day, we threw in Oswald the Rabbit. Nobody knew who that was, but the Disney family wanted to get the rights to it back, so we threw that in, and we laughed about it, and then the press didn't think that anything nefarious or insidious was going on behind the scenes. So now, I guess if I had gone back, maybe I would have taken Oswald back with me. I don't know.
I also saw a quote from you, I think, that had to do with Brady when he came into one of those pre-game meetings with the crew from Sunday Night Football, and I'm paraphrasing. I think he said, I'm the most unhappy 8-0 quarterback in the NFL. Do I have that right? And that's last year?
You do, and it was last November. The interesting thing is, so in that meeting, we have our regular, production crew with Chris and Michelle and our production folks, and so we said that on the air that night. So this was in Baltimore. They came in. They were the Patriots were 8-0, so they're undefeated halfway through the season. They're going to go up against Lamar Jackson, and he winds up beating them. And at that point, the Patriots were averaging on defense, giving up, I think, single digits. It was 8 or 9 points a game, but they were on a record pace. And Brady comes into the meeting, and he basically says at one point, I'm the most unhappy 8-0 quarterback in football. So we were trying to do the forensics on it, figuring out what's that all about. Is it all about the fact that he is going to be a free agent and knows he's going to leave? Is it about the fact that the offense is not very good, but the defense is terrific? And just going back to opening day, we had the Patriots against the Steelers in the opening Sunday night game last year. And Brady walked into the meeting and said he's very, very excited because the defense, I think he said, is the best he's ever seen since he was in New England. So he was right about that. The defense was fantastic up until that point in the season. The offense wasn't very good. But I said to him, and I know I'm not going to get the answer at that point. I don't even know if he knows the answer. But I said, Tom, I can't imagine you ever playing in another uniform. So I'm going to lay odds of 43,000 to 1 that you will never be in another uniform. And he kind of laughs, and we all laugh. So he walks out of the room, and Andy Freeland, who's one of our great research people, Andy plunks down $2 on the table and says, I'll take that bet. So I'm trying to give the $2 back to Andy, but he won't take it. So now I'm down for $86,000 this season, Dan. And if Andy thinks he's going to get paid in one lump sum, no way. That's going to be quite the installment plan. But he won the bet.
How surprised were you that Brady decided to walk away?
Very. I just didn't see it happening. Look, Bob Kraft has made it very clear through the years how much he loves him, treats him like a son, wanted to keep him, obviously. And we all know now that, Tom went to Bob Kraft's house, and they had a good cry about this whole thing. I just didn't see him leaving. I just couldn't imagine it. I mean, look, Tom is in a place that nobody's been that I can, George Blanda was different. I mean, he played into his 40s, but he was mainly kicking, and he played quarterback a little bit at that particular point. But nobody's been where Brady's been right now. So how much longer does he have to go? Can he go 2 more years, 3 more years, whatever it would be? I think Tom feels great, obviously, at this point. But I couldn't see it. I couldn't see him walking out the door, but here we are. And I think, he needed a little bit of fresh air. And I think when Bob Kraft said in the interview after he left that, sometimes, you have this great marriage, but a mother-in-law or a father-in-law, somebody else comes into the picture, we could all read between the lines what that meant. So, you can't diminish what Brady and Belichick did as a pair. That was fantastic. And I think, Tom on Howard Stern the other day was talking about, how people make too much of the fact, there was friction or whatever. Yeah, you work with somebody for 20 years, there's going to be friction. But look, what they did was spectacular. It was amazing. 6 Super Bowl wins, 9 Super Bowl appearances, always in the race. But, sometimes maybe you need a little bit of fresh air, so Tom goes down to Florida for that fresh air off the Gulf of Mexico.
He's Al Michaels, NBC Sunday Night Football. And, of course, a couple of minutes ago he talked about Bob Costas not being a technical whiz, savvy, I think. I've as long as I've known Bob, he had a flip phone, but apparently he was able to FaceTime Al Michaels. Yes, Paulie.
Bob Costas on the line, David.
Hey, Bob. Hey, welcome.
Hello, Dan. Hello, Alfalfa. That was an accident. I called Al, and I hit some button inadvertently that apparently produces images, and all of a sudden I saw myself with a 10-day growth of beard, and there was Alfalfa at some weird angle from, underneath his coffee table, and it was all very like George Jetson to me. It was very disconcerting.
Rapping, what are you doing up at this hour? Every time that you were on the road with us, Bob Costas would be the guy. You'd walk by his room at the hotel, and the Do Not Disturb sign was out at 1:30 in the afternoon. Go back to bed.
Bob, do you remember the first time you worked with Al?
The first time we actually worked together, this has to be a setup, before we ever did anything together on NBC, the first thing was basketball in 1998.
Well, I'm in the movie with you. I didn't know that's the first time you guys. I watched that the other night for the first time, Bob.
Yep.
I never watched it all the way through. I was like, and plus you can't watch it with the kids. So I'm going, oh boy. But yeah, you guys were quite a pair there, quite a tandem.
We didn't see, Al will attest to this, we didn't see you, we didn't see Reggie Jackson, we didn't see Kareem, we didn't see Robert Vaughn or Yasmin Bleeth or Ernest Borgnine, none of them. We were the last day of shooting, it was just the two of us. It started out as a lark, and then when they broke and we started to look at some of the dailies, Al looks at me and says, what have we done?
Mm-hmm. We've ended our careers.
But you know what? It turns out, in retrospect, it's like Pootie Tang, which is another cult classic that I proudly starred in. You think it's a disaster, but then as time goes by, it takes on a certain cult classic of appreciation,
Pootie
and you
Tang.
realize that inadvertently you did a good thing.
But the deal is this, and Bob, I don't know if you heard the fact that I was talking about, Marcy Carsey and she and Tom Werner, getting like $18 gazillion worth of residuals, and we get nothing. We get nothing for appearing on the MLB Network and NFL Network and ESPN Classic, but we do get residuals from that. And baby, that's a joy. You get to the mailbox every couple of months, and here's a residual from basketball, and it's $1.63 after tax.
Yeah, no. Bob, before I let both of you guys go, what are you watching?
Yeah. I'm watching some MLB Network, the classic games. You know, they've responded pretty quickly. Al Kaline passed away the other day, and they showed Games 6 and 7 of the 1968 World Series, the only World Series that he's played in. I check the NBA Network. Chris Collinsworth's A Football Life was on the NFL Network the other day. I hadn't seen that before. Maybe it was the first run. And then I'm watching a lot of news, and I'm reading, not just newspapers or stuff online. I'm actually getting to a lot of books that are on the shelf that I hadn't gotten to before.
That's great. Great to talk to both you guys, and hope you're well. Look forward to actually hearing new games from you, Al, since all of your archival games are bothering you. Poor Al. He turns on the baseball network. He's got a game. The NFL network. He's got a game. Boo-hoo, Al.
And then the NBA Network, where I'm doing good. Where Doc Rivers and I are doing the game where Derek Fisher scores the 4/10 of a second to go. Hey, Dan, do we get residuals for this show?
Yes, you do.
Okay.
Yes, you do. You're going to get $8 each.
Beautiful.
Yes, $8. I'll buy Bob a razor.
Hey, listen, I owe Andy Freeland $86,000, so whatever you want to send to me, I'm happy.
Thank you, guys. Great to talk to you.
All right, Dan.
Bob Costas, Al Michaels.